My name's Eric, and I'm with CustomMade.com, which is a marketplace for custom-made items. Our top two product categories are custom furniture and custom jewelry. And we work with 15,000 super talented makers that can create basically anything you can imagine. So we work with blacksmiths, leathersmiths, custom jewelers, custom furniture makers, glass blowers, and custom apparel makers. And we've had over 100,000 requests over the last 2 years for custom-made items, and we've sourced everything from 30-foot tall pirate ships to Darth Vader wedding dresses to R2-D2 inspired wedding rings. And so all these things, all these custom-made items, and even just the requests have really cool stories behind them. And in fact, every single thing that we purchase has a story behind it. So that's what I want to talk about today, is storytelling, and specifically how through custom-made items we can become better storytellers in our everyday lives. Oh. So, can somebody please tell me the last thing that they purchased? Just throw it out there. Shoes. What kind of shoes were they? Boots. And where'd you get them? Sorry for being so personal. DSW. DSW. And how much?
115.
115. Right. So DSW shoes, $115, and they were boots. So most things that we buy have a story like this. We can talk about the price. We can talk about where we purchased it. We can talk about the brand. And so we don't really control any of those elements. We really just control whether or not we want to purchase it. And so because we don't control it, typically our story about them is very short. And so this is the first item I ever got custom made. It's a python skin wallet. It's a rock, it's made out of rock python. It's a bifold wallet, and it has a cream colored interior. And so there is a cool story behind it. So it's my first month working at Custom Made, and I'm running a small sales team, and we're reaching out to our makers. Back then we were selling website subscriptions. And so Mike, our CEO, says, Eric, we need a sales prize this week. What do you want to do? And so I said, well, I don't know. Let me go talk to our guys. And so we're all like young 20s. We don't take ourselves too seriously. And we just decide to get snakeskin wallets out of the blue. And he goes, I love it. So we're like, great. So we print out these posters, like 20 different posters with all sorts of different snakes. And we basically plaster the entire office. So the posters are in the sales room. Posters are in engineering. Posters are in the CEO's office. Every single person knew that we had to hit this goal in order to get these snakeskin wallets. If we didn't get these snakeskin wallets, I don't think we really thought of life after that. It was, it was imperative that we hit our goal. So obviously we did. And I got rock python, but my buddy got eastern diamondback, and my other buddy actually got shark. And so we got to work with this really cool maker named Phil. Now, Phil lives out in the hills of Montana. He's kind of this hermity guy that like no one's ever heard of before, but he does some of the most amazing leather work you've ever seen. And so with this one item, I was able to tell 3 stories. I was able to tell the story about the idea and where it came from, which was Snake Week. And I got to tell the story of the maker. I got to talk about Phil and where he's from. And then finally, there's the piece itself. So I got to talk about how I was able to pick rock python and tell you about the cream interior. And so this item has what I like to call story equity built right into it. I like walking around with it and carrying it with me everywhere, especially if I go to the bar and I pay for a drink and somebody asks me about it. Not only do I get to talk about the wallet, but I get to talk about the maker, and I get to tell the story of Snake Week, which I love telling. Now, my previous wallet was a Perry Ellis wallet. Nice wallet. But if somebody asked me the story behind it, I would tell them, it's Perry Ellis wallet. I got it at Bonton. 30% off. And things kind of just end there. It's just not as interesting for me. So, Crocodile Dundee. Why do I love this guy? Other than the fact that we could pound Foster's till 4 in the morning, and he could tell me, stories of hanging out with Aborigines and killing ostriches and all this cool stuff, which I'm totally into. But another reason why I like him is he lives this lifestyle of storytelling, particularly through the things that he's wearing. So for instance, if I asked him about his hat, he could probably tell me the story how he killed a crocodile and ripped its teeth out, and then went to the hat maker, and they picked out this style and put the crocodile on this hat. Or his cuff. Maybe it's made out of ostrich, and he spent like a week tracking it or something. And so he could probably talk for days and days and days just about the stuff that he's wearing because it's custom made. I'd love to have a beer with them too. So there are all these brands out there that are telling stories. And it's my guess that Crocodile Dundee wouldn't purchase from these folks. But I don't think he wouldn't purchase from them because the brands don't appeal to him. I think he wouldn't purchase from them, it's because he wants to have ownership of the story behind the pieces and the things that he carries with him. Tiffany's is a great story, but personally, I think Crocodile Dundee can tell cooler ones. And so, mass customization. The first mass customization product I remember was Nike ID. And I had a pair of Nike ID shoes 10 years ago, so I purchased cleats. And I was able to pick out the color, and I was able to put my name on the cleats. And so I own certain elements of the story behind this piece, but ultimately it's Nike's designers that are choosing the style, and it's Nike's designers that are choosing the colors that I'm going to pick from. And so I'm only halfway invested into the story behind this piece. So I kind of have like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I think it's still better than not owning any part of the story, but it's not the whole thing. And so what we're doing at Custom Made is allowing people to be authentic storytellers and allow people to control every single part of the story behind their custom-made item. So it starts with the story of your idea, which we call the spark. And so it's basically a blank canvas. Tell us what you're looking for. Do you have a drawing on a napkin? Or do you have a photo from somewhere? Maybe you were abroad and you saw something you liked, but you just didn't know where to find it. This is an important part of your custom-made item. This is the story behind it and where your idea originally came from. There's a story of the maker. This is equally as important, and it's a really cool opportunity. Every single maker on our site has a history of making things from scratch. And maybe they've made something for Shaquille O'Neal, or maybe they've made something for Bill Clinton. Whoever you end up choosing to work with, you basically get to bake their entire history of making things into that product. So now you bake the idea into it, and now you're baking the maker into your item as well. And then finally there is the piece itself. Since most custom-made items are unique, typically people will notice them and they'll ask you about them. My personal favorite are the Boston Red Sox World Series Edition cowboy boots. And if I was wearing them, I'm sure somebody would come up and ask me about them. And so I could talk about the red, I could talk about the stitching and the actual piece itself and what it says on the boot. But I could probably talk for another half an hour about the maker that made them and like why I wanted them in the first place. And so everything hundreds and hundreds of years ago used to be custom made. And over time, mass production and mass manufacturing came along and slowly started sucking these stories away from everybody. Now they're trying to tell it. And what we're really doing is we're just bringing a super old concept from hundreds and hundreds of years ago and getting things custom made for us online and allowing people to be storytellers and control all the parts of the story. And for me personally, I think it's more interesting and it's just more fun. That's it.